Hey guys, Jason here with a Duel Masters deck profile. Today's feature deck is based on internet favorite Hydrooze the Mutant Emperor. I say internet favorite because of how often I've seen this guy pop up in people's threads or in people's videos, and for good reason. He is pretty cool, especially because of the different ways he can be played. I've seen a couple of people play it with Snake Attack, trying to end games more quickly, and I've also seen players using cards like Cranium Clamp, trying to draw out the game while they build a board with Hydrooze. But our preferred way to play Hydrooze is just a crazy all-out attacking style. We just find that it's the most fun and the most natural way to play him. So who is this guy? For those unaware, or as you can see here, he's a Cyberlord Hedrian evolution. He cannot be blocked. He gives your other Cyberlords in Hedrian unblockable, and he gives them a nice power boost as well. So because he's the mascot of the deck, we are playing 4 copies of Hydrooze. Alright, now before I get into the list, I also want to quickly go over how the deck wins. Really, we want to aggro our opponent to death, or at the very least get them to 0 shields. Then we can finish them off with a speed attacker Hydrooze, or a board of creatures, or even just like if one of our creatures manages to stick, there are a lot of ways to get around blockers. Now on to the rest of the cards. Probably the second most important card we're running is Emerald. So 4 copies of him. I feel like one of the neatest advantages of Hydrooze is its ability to run plenty of viable 2-drops, and Emerald is of course one of them. He can manipulate shield triggers, which is very important for the deck, and of course is cheap evo bait for the aforementioned speed attacker Hydrooze play. So who else are we evolving into Hydrooze? Well, we are running 4 copies of Propeller Mutant, a super annoying card that is great against both aggro and control. Against aggro, he does a good job in trading with their creatures and bringing down their hand size. This is especially nice since aggro often doesn't have too many ways to draw cards, and control on the other hand doesn't like dealing with him since their entire playstyle is predicated on card advantage, but prop is typically a -1 for them. We are also running 3 copies of Windmill Mutant. Now, those who've seen the old deck profile might remember we played Hourglass Mutant instead of this guy, and Andrew is still angry at me for replacing Hourglass for Windmill Mutant. I flip-flopped a lot on this guy's inclusion, but I realized it was a lot harder to get value out of Hourglass's effect, and this soured me on the card. And on the other hand, I also realized this deck needed more ways to apply early pressure, and Windmill is of course a great fit for that because 1, he evolves into Hydrooze, and 2, who enjoys staring down a Horrid Worm on turn 3? It's just really annoying. Especially when, let's say, you're able to get one of your 2-drops down, and then 3, you Windmill, and then on 4, you can actually evolve one of these into Hydrooze, and then you have a powered up Horrid Worm swinging for shields. And Bloody Squeedo can't even block it. So annoying. For a while, we were messing around with 4 copies, but we found 3 was enough. We end the Hedrian line with 4 copies of Locomotiver. Now, despite leaning away from Locomotiver in some of our control decks, we found he was just too important in this deck. I tried cutting him down to 3, but bumped him right back up to 4 immediately after. He's great as a trigger, especially against aggro, and more significantly is just great at pressuring the opponent when summoned. Yes, the word pressure is going to come up a lot this video. I should also mention that aside from Windmill Mutant, Locomotiver is the only way to answer Baz or Pyro, and this deck can be quite weak to those cards, so the combination of the 2 helps. Actually, a very strong play is to actually Windmill on 3, and then Loco on 4, and then when you swing with this, you basically took 2 cards away from your opponent's hand. And the last of the Evo baits is unsurprisingly 4 copies of Corile. This is just a very annoying card to play against. It's great at dealing with boss monsters, and it's surprisingly useful against Rush if you can avoid being on death's door by turn 5. And also, being a creature with unconditional spot removal is really good. I'm sure you can imagine a handful of situations where your opponent has like a creature on board and then you bounce it with Corile, and then because they drew into the creature, they aren't going to be able to find that removal they need to save their life. Or let's say they think a blocker's protecting them and you already have a creature out. Boom, Corile, it's over. Now that we've gone over Hydrooze and his support, let's get into the engine. To the shock of no one, we are running 4 copies of Aquahulcus. Draws a card, has a body, we like this very much. Unfortunately, no Hyper Squid Walter, who is a bit too slow. This next card might be a little surprising. 3 copies of Lucky Ball. Illusionary Merfolk died for this. It wasn't an easy call to make, but I think Lucky Ball is better than Merfolk in this deck. Since our strategy is to keep breaking shields, Lucky Ball's effect will be pulled off a lot more consistently than Illusionary Merfolk. You know, if you think about it, most of our Evo baits are actually Hedrians and not even Cyberlords. So quite often what will happen is if I'm able to hit Lucky Ball early enough into the game, it'll be about turn 5 or 6, I'll have 2 creatures on board, and then boom, Lucky Ball draws 2 more cards. Another great application of Lucky Ball is imagine being in the later stages of the game and you just top deck Lucky Ball, suddenly you've got a creature on board and 2 more cards. So that's quite difficult for the opponent to deal with. Yes, Illusionary Merfolk tends to have higher highs, but Lucky Ball is probably a more consistent card overall, and with a deck like this, consistency is really what you're going for. Now, before we move on, I just want to talk about what I call the Lucky Ball trap. During testing, I found myself going out of my way to pull off Lucky Ball's effect close to curve, but I don't think this is typically the best way to use the card. I'd say it's normally better to just let the deck do its thing, and then when you top deck Lucky Ball, or when you really need it, just summon it, and then you're off to the races. Originally, we actually had 3 copies of Lucky Ball, and then when we were messing around with the list, we cut 1 for the 4th Windmill Mutant, but then we decided 2 was too little. It just wasn't reliable enough. So we put in the 3rd one again. Finally, we have the shield trigger section. We're rocking 3 copies of Aqua Surfer and 3 copies of Terrapit, or, Petiste Terrier. These are some of the best trigs around and they fit the civs, so why not? Now, the reason we've had to cut down to 3 of each is because we need space for 4 Holy Awe. So Holy Awe is one of the cornerstones of the deck, and the rationale here is identical to our experience with the Beastfolk deck if you've seen that deck profile. We try to checkmate the opponent by putting them in a situation where we're like, okay, you have to win now. And if they don't, Hydrooze probably wins the next turn. Being able to hope for Holy Awe and shields, or better yet, planted with Emerald, can buy us that extra turn we need to win. Holy Awe and Shield ensures we always have a chance if we have enough creatures on board or can manage a speed attacker Hydrooze the next turn. Because again, usually the way the deck wins is to put your opponent on 0 shields and then go for a speed attacker Hydrooze play, and with Holy Awe and Shields it will be impossible for your opponent to kill you. So your opponent really has to play this precarious game of trying to make sure you don't have Hydrooze in your hand while simultaneously trying to end you, and fending off creatures on board. And that's our revised Hydrooze deck. It took me a while to figure out the deck, so you might notice some misplays in the duel videos, but hey, it's part of the learning experience. But that's all I had for this video. As always, thank you for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.